I escaped Fallon that day by working with Beban and Jerrock at cleaning the little byre that holds my mother's chickens. The offal we carried down to the fallow fields, holding our noses and laughing. Beban has a cloud of hair the colour of iron rot. It looks like an orange halo in the right light and mats down like wet reeds when she is sweating. She must have gotten it from the fairies. The rest of us have brown hair that hangs heavily down our backs. We sing while we work, rearranging the words of the old tunes until the older women scowl at us and click their tongues. We prank and tease and laugh out loud. Jerrock has a laugh bright enough to turn a thunderstorm aside. I am convinced that the saints, the fairies, and the old gods gave me these two to make up for giving me Fallon. Beban pretended to be Saint Brigid, throwing bread to the poor, instead of a girl pitching chicken manure at bare dirt. Jerrock laughed so hard I thought she might burst. Beban can make anyone laugh. We scattered the manure thinly where the winter wheat was growing. Later, the men would plough both wheat and offal under, churning it into the soil to rot slowly over the coming year. The fields, ready for planting, had been rested the same way last year. I wonder, I said as we trudged back up the hill, what it would be like to have a whole year to rest. Beban and Jerrock both stared at me. Then Beban began to smile. Jerrock caught the giggles from her, and they both laughed so hard their cheeks flushed pink. None of us could imagine it. "We will work hard at high pasture," Beban said as we dragged the next load down the hill. "How strange it will be to be anywhere but right here," I said. Then we all fell silent, and I knew they had the same mixture of excitement and fear in their bellies that I did. I avoided Fallon's anger that night by staying close to my mother all evening. The next morning, I pretended to sleep a little late, opening my eyes a tiny slit, watching Fallon frown at me with dark eyes and a wrinkled brow as she left. I rose once she was gone, my stomach cramped with hunger. It was like this nearly every morning, and I knew that was part of Fallon's temper fits over her cracked comb. She was hungry most of the time. We all were. None among us ever had enough to eat this season of the year, and it would only get worse before it got better. From Imbolc on the 1st of February to Beltana on the 1st day of May, we were caught between the end of our winter stars and the beginning of our new food. Lambing began earlier than calving, and that meant the sheep would give milk, but it would be much less than the cows would later. Some years were worse than others, and this was a bad one. My father had been gone most of last summer fighting, then had left again not long after our celebration of Imbolc and the passing of Saint Brigid through the Tua. You could not see her, of course. It was her spirit, but we left out things for her to bless. My mother had left out her biggest iron soup pot, as she always does. I put out my spindle, hoping it would spin faster so I could spend less time at a chore I hated. After my father left, and all his men with him, we had only a few aged men and the young boys to hunt for us, so mate was scarce, and we dared not kill many cows without my father's command. Once the 2-year bulls were gone, we lived on last year's oats and hard cheese. There wasn't much. As the days passed, all our bellies got flatter, curving in instead of out. We had not been the only ones to eat our food, of course. The Tua had paid shares of cheese and grain and mate to my father, so that he could pay the Norman barony of Athenry. Until the Irishmen defeated the Normans, if they ever did, we would have to pay them. And all through the wet, wintry months of gum, we had to receive noble visitors if they came to us. We had had quite a few this year. Lord Birmingham, the Norman Baron of Athenry, had sent us 2 groups of young noblemen off to explore the wild lands of Connemara. I wondered if any of them would end up fighting against my father if the battling continued once the weather warmed again. I wondered if any of them knew which Tuatha fought and which had accepted their rule.